Yes,
Um,
I did today. Hallelujah.
let's go. Let's go. There we go. Y'all ready to rock?
Yes.
That's why I gotta
Why
keep
does
you out.
KR have the glasses on? All
I'm
right,
not
let's go.
talking to you, especially after that picture you sent me. I'm not talking to you.
Okay, all right, so what? Okay, so it's like rock it out. Kill, do it. What's up? What's up?
All
Mm-hmm.
right. All right, y'all ready? I'm like, Kay, he got these glasses on every week. Why you pick this week to talk about them?
You know what?
Mm,
I ain't
I
even
see
wearing them
you
no more. She
on
hurt my
JR side.
feelings.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting show. Yeah, let's go.
Foolish. All right, let's go. What's
Uh-huh.
good? You all right, Jr.?
Yeah, I'm straight. All right, go ahead.
What's good? What's good? What's good? Y'all tuning into the Corner Radio, hosted by your man Kill. I got my R&B co-op up here today, K and Jr. What's going on, y'all?
What's
What's
up?
up?
Y'all just in unison today. That's good. That's good. We gotta get that EPMD back and forth vibe flowing up in here today. So look, a couple of weeks ago, me and JR was chopping it up. You know, if y'all don't know, Faith Evans is one of his favorite singers. So we was chopping it up about Faith, and I was just kind of like saying how like I thought she could have been doper than what her career kind of ended with. And then we kind of started talking about just how it seemed that all the artists of Bad Boy, of course, but to me especially the R&B side of Bad Boy, just after their debut albums, like they just weren't ever the same. Like they never came with that same intensity from their first album, and then once they left Bad Boy, it seemed like it just got even worse. So just wanted to chop it up today, just about why we think that is, and kind of talking about the history of these artists. So definitely had to chop it up with my two favorite folks to talk R&B music with. So one just wanted to go into a little history because we got younger cats out there who look at Puff or Sean Combs as a clothing designer, and that's it, and don't even know the history of the dude. So, just quick rundown. Of course, he was a party promoter in D.C. at Howard. Went on to A&R up at Uptown. Was a huge piece of the success of Mary and Jodeci. Then started Bad Boy in '93. Signed Craig Mack and Big, the best MC who ever lived. R.I.P. Was his first two signees, but then went on to sign Faith Evans, 112 Total, and Carl Thomas. So just first wanted to really, I guess, talk about Kay. What did you think of Bad Boy's influence on R&B in the '90s? What did you think about it?
I think that Bad Boy was an innovator in the 90s. They changed the face of R&B. I mean, R&B is what it is. It was always great. It always will be great. But they added something else to it, like that sound. They almost made R&B, I don't know, for lack of a better term, thugged out in the 90s because, you had rap out there. Rap was hitting us hard. The beats were hard, and Puff took songs and just straight changed them and put hard beats and baggy jeans on dudes singing love songs to you. And
Mm-hmm.
you was just like, oh my gosh, he took Mary, who, oh God, people are going to kill me, was a mediocre singer and made her one of the hottest chicks out there. And I love me some Mary, but her lyrically, vocally, I should say, she's really not the greatest, but he was able to do that and just rock it out. And so,
Mm-hmm.
there go JR co-signing. It's not his turn.
She's starting already.
So let JR take over from there since he want to be a psychic today.
All right, Jay, what's your take on Bad Boy in the R&B in the '90s?
Nah, I'm gonna continue to co-sign with Kay, and I'm just gonna say that she's absolutely right. Like he just the image that he turned R&B into, he made it that the hip hop genre can relate to it, especially image wise. Like she said, she took Mary that was he put her in some baggy jeans and some combat boots and made her like the illest chick out. They was letting her compete with the Tony Braxtons and the Mariahs and the Janet during that time. So Mary was able to kind of get in there, and then with him creating that lane for Big and the way the impact that Big had when he came into it, nobody had an impact like he did like that. And it's just like he just created just the image for R&B. He made it so thugged out in the '90s that it was relatable to everybody. So You know.
Right.
And you can relate in kindergarten, right? At PS 29.
Yeah.
Oh God, y'all shots fired all the time up here. And I think the one thing, and I'm not, the biggest, it's funny because I'm always in the middle with Puff, and what he's done for music. But I do want to say a lot of times people always try to just say all he did was do what Ron G was doing and having, people sing over hip hop beats, and that is true to an extent. But he also R&B those hip hop beats out. Like if you really listen to Mary's Real Love, it is her singing over top billing, but then the chords that he would always put into, he always brought and had his either Chucky Thompson or Stevie J or Mario Winans, and we'll go into that later. He always still kept it. He still had elements of R&B in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was a good balance because it literally wasn't just because you'll hear people say, "Oh, he just had her sing over Real Love," and I'm like, over top billing, and I'm like, well, yeah, but not really. You know what I mean? Like, there's a totally difference between Ron G blending Stephanie Mills, something in the way you make me feel, and synthetic substitution than what Puff was doing. But
But
so
I mean, and I'm sorry.
no,
But like, so what if that's what he did? I mean, Ron G did it with Tasha. Tasha became Miss Jones. Then she took her song singing about Ron G got the dope beats and made it Where I Wanna Be Boy. Puff just took it to another level and commercialized it, and all of a sudden it wasn't just a Von G thing, and it wasn't Mary singing on a mix on a Kid Capri tape or something. So I mean, isn't that what music is? I mean, we all pretty much, you don't come with that one great idea. No one person is blessed with that one idea. It's all pretty much the same stuff. It's who gets it out there first, and he got it out there first and he rocked with it. So I think when people say that, like, oh, well, he just did this or he just did that. No, he just took a chance. That's what he did.
Absolutely.
And that's what we weren't doing. We were just rocking it out again on mixtapes. Like, oh, no, that's dope. And you could only get those sounds that he had playing on commercial radio on mixtapes. So, I mean, so what? That's what he did.
Right. It's almost like, bringing that to the masses because, truth be told, outside and y'all two being from New York is different for me because in Philly, a lot of our mixed DJs were doing, scratching and stuff. You know what I mean? They weren't really doing blends. It wasn't until I came to Morgan in '92 and I was hearing these blends and I was like losing my mind, like, yo, that's dope. You know what I mean? So for y'all two being from New York, that's probably something y'all heard on the norm. It wasn't something that, that I heard till '92 and probably the rest of the country didn't hear until with Mary. You know what I mean?
Like 93, that's true. So in Philly, y'all was still scratching like we was in the 80s? Is that what you're saying? Y'all was just that far behind? I'm just asking. I'm
just saying, our DJ was more to the art of DJing. We just wasn't blending right.
Oh, that was a shot. That was a shot.
No, I mean, if y'all, K know of all people, I give New York nothing but respect for what they did for hip-hop, but with Philly, it's always been the DJs. It's always been Jazzy Jeff, Tab Money, Cash Money, our DJs.
That in between when they was driving the getaway car for Eddie V. I don't want no problem. I'm sorry. Let's stick to the script. I'm sorry. Right.
The funniest thing is me and my man Malik are working on a treatment to tell that Cool C and Steady V story too. And truth be told, not to even put it out there, we're not telling it from really their perspective, but we're making sure that that female officer who was killed, that you get her perspective too.
Right.
It's very much a balanced project we're working on. But neither here nor there. So I mean I do think Puff, brought a lot to the R&B game. So the first signing he had was Faith Evans, who a lot of people don't know, sang background on Mary's My Life, did a lot of background on Usher's first album. So let's talk about her first album, Faith. Well, JR, I'll start with you because I know this is your girl. What did you think about the first Faith album?
I loved it. I thought it was great. During that time, she had to compete with kind of Mary because My Life was out. So everybody was kind of thinking she was a clone of Mary, especially the way that Puff presented her. Like, if you look at a lot of her, like, album covers and her single covers, a lot of them were the same as Mary. So it was like during that time, it was just like, you know, everybody was looking at Faith as like, oh man, she's copying Mary's style. But if you read not Mary's, but Faith's book, she was saying that Puff wanted her to be more of a balladeer. So what he did was he said, I know what will catch people, and what will catch people was what you used to love me. Everybody will catch on to that beat. So it made you catch on to that, and it was like, okay, this is Faith, this is her. And then you brought out Soon As I Get Home. So it was like he wanted Faith to be that balladeer, but it was like it made Mary kind of jealous. It did, and a lot of Mary fans don't think so, but it's the truth. That's why she left, because Puff was her manager. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Puff saw the image work for her, for Mary. He tried that My Life era, you know, vibe work for her. So he said, I'm going to try to put that onto Faith. And Mary felt as though, wait a minute, how are you going to create another me? You know what I mean? And then I think that is the problem when it comes to Faith, because it's like that first album, everybody compares it to the My Life album. So that album, the Faith album, can never stand alone. And like I said this week, I said, you know, from that album, you might get the same emotion, you might get the same feeling, but it's completely, totally different. And like the interview that you did with Chucky Thompson Kill, like he lets you know, like the My Life album was more soulful, but the Faith album was more gospel oriented, because you can hear like the Clark sisters and all that in there. So it's like, you know, but for me, I think that Faith album is an R&B classic in my opinion. It's completely dope. And I like how Kay said on one of our episodes how she was like, you know, how Faith was actually cursing on the song, and you know, she stayed within, you know, it sounded dope, and she was sitting there cursing and it sounded dope. You know what I'm saying? So I think if you want to talk about a 90s classic, Faith's first album it has to be talked about.
All right, no doubt. What'd you think about it, Kay?
The first album definitely was hot. I do think that Puff, when it came to marketing Faith, it was like, hey, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, he marketed Mary with that hip hop chick from the 10th floor yelling out the project window. So he figured, like, all right, Faith too. When you think about the first song, the first video for the song was not the video that's played all the time, and I think a lot of people forget that there's two videos. And the first video,
I love you right now.
Like, you know, she had the head nod and she was all, you know, it was very Mary-ish.
Yeah.
But she wasn't Mary. And I was one of those people. I was like, oh, this chick was a backup singer. Now she coming out here and she's trying to blow Mary away. But then when you really started to listen to Mary's songs and you started to listen to Faith's album, you was like, Faith really can sing. Like, she can blow. And I remember before the CD dropped, a friend of mine had a copy of it and brought it to my house. And we was listening to this tape, and I was like, is that Mary? And she was like, whatever, that's Faith. And I was like, Biggie's wife, Faith? And she was like, yeah. And the more I listened to it, I was like, yo, this chick really, really can sing. But you can't get mad at him when it comes to the marketing on how he marketed them. When you look at, and I'm sure you'll get into it later in the show, Kill, but when you look at all of the bad boy groups or whatever, even if he did your remix, everybody had the same look. It wasn't no variance in the look, because that's what worked. And it really kind of established his brand. You know, I mean, you think about when Total came out, and I know I didn't just jump to a whole nother, I'm sorry, but like when Total came out, Total was kind of hard too. You know, they had Big in the song, they had the Brat in the song, they was real hard. And then that summer they dropped Kissing You, and they in the park playing, and it's like some real, you know, a softer side. So it's just kind of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The first CD was just dope all the way around. There wasn't a song on there that I did not like. Yeah. I would definitely deem that first CD a classic, hands down. And I don't just mean a classic for Faith, but I mean out of all of the stuff that Puff did R&B wise, like, that was probably the best ever. Like, that's just how I feel. So.
Right. Now, and of course, no need to go more than what y'all said. Five My Classic to me. Too many bangers on here. Reasons is probably one of my favorite joints.
Yes.
you know, just to me, that's again, it goes back to that sequence, and you got to have a strong song to end your
Mm.
album. You know,
Yes.
to make people be like, "Damn, it's over." You know what I mean? And I feel like nowadays people put all the good stuff in the beginning to get you hype, and then they lose you. But
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
kept you throughout. I mean, and I think at the end of the day, it's like you said, JR. I think, and for cats who haven't seen it, check out we'll-make-beats-for-food.com. I got an interview with Chucky Thompson, and I asked him a lot of questions about the differences between Faith and Mary and Nas and Big, and you know, really just came at dude as a fan of his music because I'm a huge fan of it, and just trying to go into because you know Mary had the I'm Going Down, and then Faith had the Love Don't Live Here Anymore. It kind of was. Like you said, it was really sticking to the blueprint. Like, okay, we're gonna do an old Rolls Royce song. Like, we not
Right.
a new group. We're gonna just do another Rolls Royce song, and you know, since this is working, that's what it is. Now, let's go into now. The first album dropped in '95. The second
Mhm.
album dropped in '98, which is a
Mhm.
3 year difference.
Right.
I think what a lot of folk don't pay attention to is that in that time, Big died.
Right. She
Mhm.
had a lot go on within that time. It
Right.
wasn't just a small dash. That was a lot that went on in the dash.
Right.
You figure 3 years. I always think of college. That's like going from a freshman to a junior. You know, a lot happens in
Mhm.
those 3 years, and I think with Big dying, it kind. I think at heart, you know, Puff always wanted to be an artist. That's why he was always in the videos. And when he did that, you know, I'll be missing you joint for Big, which I hate to this day. But it blew up so much and sold so many copies. That's when Puff was like, okay, I'm gonna do this No Way Out album. And I felt like that
Mhm.
was like the passing of the guard of Puff being a executive producer, being hands on to now he's an artist himself. Because I kind of felt like for the second Faith album, even though it was still on Bad Boy, he really wasn't hands on with it. You know what I'm saying? And it
He
was
was.
off. But with the second album, Keep the Faith, you know, one of the biggest differences, I mean, Chucky did 90% of this first album.
Mhm.
Right.
Second album, Chucky only did 2 joints. You know,
Yep.
Carmel Kisses and My First Love. Babyface did a joint. Stevie J did two. J Dub got on there. But what did y'all think of the second album, Keep the Faith?
Oh, I think it was dope. I do. But
Like,
you could tell the maturity and faith in that
Right.
second album. You know, the first one, it was kind of that, for lack of a better term, hood love type album. You know, like, all right,
Mhm.
as soon as I get home, you could take that a couple of ways. Like, um, he's coming home from jail, whatever. Like, I mean, I'm just being serious. Like,
Right.
like you can switch it. Like, it can be just anyway. Let me just go on. So anyway, I was gonna go and say something. Yo,
we talking about Riker Owl visits and all kinds of stuff. So.
to say that horrible. But that second CD, you could definitely tell the maturity.
Yeah.
Faith was still singing, she was still rocking it out, but she was singing differently the next album. It was
Right.
like, all right, I grew up. I can't sing these same type songs. It's like, to me, she realized that she matured. She realized what she had lost in there with losing Big and just everything. Like, I think she realized how much she loved that dude in that second album, because
Yep.
when you hear it, that chick is in love. She is in deep love. And if you ever read, like, I was big on reading like the inserts inside the CDs and stuff, and like,
Yeah.
just like, yo, I love you, I miss you, da 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 da. And I think it really, that one was like, that was that grown folks love right there. That's how I feel. That second CD was dope, and it was definitely on some grown folks love type thing.
All right, what'd you think, JR?
I thought it was dope. I thought it was dope, but you just said that Puff was kind of more into it on the first album. Like, he was more into it, but I don't really think he was, honestly. And after reading Faith book, she kind of gave me a little bit more of reason why. Because when Faith brought out this first album, she went like, I mean, Puff was on tour with Big, so he wasn't really able to kind of be in the studio with her. It was just like he would hear the finished product and be like, okay, yeah, I like that. Put that here, put that there. And then it was like, because she said she would go on tour, and it would be like Puff did not even pay for her to go to like the award shows, because he felt like he was so interested in Big and lifting Big, like he didn't pay attention to Faith. So I know one part she said on how she had to go to the Soul Train Awards, and she had to pay her own money because Puff didn't want to put any money in to send her to the Soul Train Awards, and she won the biggest awards of the night. So it was just, and when it came to Keeping the Faith, she said when she did that album, to be honest, she was like, Puff wanted her to come out right after she did I'll Be Missing You. And she was like, yo, I'm not ready yet. Like, he was really trying to push it because I think Puff is like, look, it's hot. I need you to throw this album out here. And she's like, I ain't trying to do that. And she also said, I'm not trying to do another first album. And like Kay said, she had to grow. And if we would have got another Chucky Thompson album with them two, I think it wouldn't have been the same. And I mean, Faith ended up getting the biggest song of her career, Love Like This, off that album. And you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and what's the name didn't do that. Chucky didn't do that. So I'm like, this album definitely showed maturity, and a lot of people actually like it a little better because it's a little mainstream. You know how people say that they like It Was Written a little better than Illmatic because they feel like that he was a little bit more. It was like everybody said Illmatic was so raw, but then It Was Written was a little bit. He was lyrically better, but it was a little bit more mainstream that everybody can kind of feel it. And I think this is what Faith was. And I think everybody wanted to see what she had to say about her feelings about Big passing and, she finding a new love in Todd and how she's dealing with that and all that. So for me, like I agree with Kay, I think it was a lot more mature than the first one. You know what I mean? And it was that real love that she was talking about, that hood stuff. You know what I mean? So, and then the image clearly changed. Faith started wearing dresses and stuff by then. You know what I mean?
And she lost weight, though. And she also lost weight.
That's true. So it was like, it wasn't about her trying to give you that hood that she was giving us in 95. It was like now she's like, I'm a lady, so now I'm singing y'all some ballads, but I'm going to be, rather y'all being in a suit and some shoes, I'm giving y'all a dress and some heels, and I'm singing to y'all. So, but
you know what, Kill? I'm sorry, JR. I don't totally agree with that. Like where you said it wouldn't be so hood. She really wasn't hood in the first CD. I mean, she had like some hood songs. But she really was not that hood. She was still that lady in the first CD. I think this one, she just got to do what she really liked to do, which was sing.
Okay,
she just wants to sing. Like
absolutely
when if you've ever watched a Faith interview and they talk to her about singing, like her face lights up about how she would sing all the time. And if you ever read like magazines and stuff, she talked about, I think, her dad and how her dad was a singer, but she really didn't know her dad that well or something like that. And so singing is just inherently in her. So when that second CD came out, she was mature. But then you have to wonder, like, was this the Faith that was always there? That first Faith was the clone. It was the, all right, it ain't broke, don't fix it. I got to get her out there. It's kind of like, I think, Kill, when we did the show the other week and Bezo talked about Ghostface and like how Ghost did, well, you did. You and Bezo talked about him, but in another show you said how Ghost would put a song out to grab the masses, and then it's like, yo, it's radio friendly, it's dope, all of that, and then you listen, it's all the other stuff that he wants to say, etc., that's not going to make it to the radio. And if he don't put that one radio single out, ain't nobody going to get his CD and be like, yo, this is so dope. So that's kind of like what he did with Faith. I mean, he just kind of like, hey, look, we got to put it out so people can see her. And because remember, she was good and people liked her, but it wasn't until it was, yo, that's Big's wife, and people started putting two and two together that she was the chick in the car in the video, and then she was the chick laying in the bed in One More Chance, and it's like, oh, and then she started to blow. So, I mean, there's things behind it, but I think if her and Chucky did another song, or did more songs, the CD would have been probably even doper because he seems to know how to tap into the true talent.
That's true. Like you said, it was more about the image. I think the first album.
You can't change your answer. Go ahead, Kay.
But no, I'm not changing my answer. I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
Yo, it's okay. Don't play spades with him.
Exactly right.
I'm not reneging.
Reneging. Yes, you are.
I'm not reneging, but I agree with Kay, though. It was more about the image, though. But I still think if Chucky would have still did this second album, it wouldn't have been what we wouldn't have got the big bangers and the crossovers like we did with the first.
Right. What y'all think about the third album, Faithfully?
I like that too. Faithfully, I really, really, really liked. I still play that joint as much as I play the first one.
Okay.
Faithfully was a different sound, but she had some hot songs on there. But I think during that time, that's when, there was that split. Now it's Faith with, with her new husband, the new kid, so forth. And you got to realize that there's a lot of Biggie stands out there. There's a lot of Bad Boy stands out there. So Faith could put something hot out, but because their loyalty is so undying and so unfledging to unwavering to Bad Boy, they'd be like, oh, this is not hot. It was a dope CD to me. She didn't put too many songs on there, which is what you've seen on her second CD. She had 12, 13 songs. This one, she had maybe 8 songs. And
are you talking about on Faithfully?
Yeah, I think so.
Like 18 songs.
No, are you sure?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I'm gonna go look. I'm gonna go get my CD. Kill, you keep talking while I go get my CD.
It was
so I'm not done. Let me finish giving my perspective on the CD. So I like the CD because it had a different sound. She still sang, she still rocked it out, but I just think that people were so loyal to Bad Boy and to Puff and to Big or what have you, that they really didn't rock with the second one. With the second one, with Faithfully. It was a good CD. She had good songs on there, but it wasn't the typical Faith Evans. She went further into I like to sing. I'm going to sing from the heart, whatever comes my way. But also what happens with artists when they leave Bad Boy and they're not working with Puff anymore is that people think that they fall off because they don't have that sound anymore.
Yeah. Well, hold tight for a second, because I
didn't went too far. Okay.
No. I'm just saying this is her last Bad Boy album, so she was still on Bad
Boy. What did
yeah.
But they had beef when that album came out, did they not? I believe they had beef because she talked about it in an interview. Something was going on because she talked about the album, and when he was brought up, I remember seeing an interview and she just kind of shrugged him off. So that's why I assumed. But you're right. It was the last one. But there was some beef in there and some turmoil.
Plus, Bad Boy was leaving Arista and going to Universal. So, that whole distribution deal means a lot too. Mm-hmm. So JR, what'd you think about Faithfully?
Faithfully was cool. I liked it. At the end of the day, I'm a Faith fan, so I'm going.
I don't think so. Your answers didn't seem that way.
Oh, please. For somebody that don't even know how many songs is on Faithfully, you gonna call yourself a fan?
Shots fired. All right.
Ain't no
but nah, I think it was dope. But I totally agree with Kay. I think everybody was so we rocking with Bad Boy that it's just okay, and they wasn't hot then, so it was screw everybody. It was screw Faith, screw all that, and it was just nobody really got that CD. And Faith was singing on this CD Alone in the World, Alone in This World, and Brand New Man and Heaven.
Brand New Man, yes, she kills it.
Yeah,
yes,
she's
did.
singing Faith really singing on these joints, but people didn't really understand it because it was okay. But I'm when she came out with the first single, You Gets No Love, I'm okay, she's still giving us a little Bad Boy type of vibe, but everybody was just oh man, Bad Boy done fell off, so we don't even care about it no more. So it was
I don't really think it was the fall off though, JR. I think that people stopped feeling Faith. I really think that people stopped feeling Faith because you figure Bad Boy's brand, they had loyalists. It's just you got people that's yo, I'm an Apple brand loyalist. No,
right.
I'm a Samsung brand loyalist, and I only get Samsung phones. I only buy Apple phones. That's how it was when it came to Bad Boy. That was, again, post Big. Everybody knew that there was some tension in the air surrounding Big's death. And then you figure you also got Little Kim out there, who's the woman at the well, who's just I went to church today. So, and that was Puff's girl too. Or if it wasn't his girl, it was his girl because Big was his man. You know what I mean? And so there was the tension, the clear-cut tension there. You had tension with Mary and Faith. You still got the people that's loyal to Mary more so than they are Faith. There's a lot of things that were involved in it, and then Faith didn't really break no bones with letting people know that there was a little tension in the air. And so I think people just kind of dismissed her, although the CD was really good. You can't dismiss her. And then also, that was around the time Carl Thomas came out, and we know how Puffy does people. So the deal is that if he not feeling you no more, you might put a CD out, you might put an album out, but he not pushing it. He's not going to push it. Remember, Carl Thomas sat on the shelf for years, and then Sean went to jail, and then he got thrust to the forefront. And even on the Faithfully CD, they have the remix to Can't Believe. So there's a lot involved there, and that dude still held a lot of weight. You know how it is. You leave Bad Boy, you ain't getting no record deal nowhere else. You singing on the corner in front of the subway station, so. That's my take. Go ahead, Kill.
The wild part with me is both those albums, Keep the Faith and Faithfully. I liked them. They were good albums. I don't think they, for me at least, production-wise, because the thing is like, to me, if you a dope rapper, you a dope rapper. If you a dope singer, you a dope singer. And Faith, to me, you can't front on her on the singing tip. It's kind of like with Nas. He's an incredible MC, but without the right beats behind him, his discography got a lot of holes in it.
Right.
So I think, and it's one of the things that me and JR were talking about before, is that Faith and Chucky just
y'all do a lot of talking without me. I'm starting to feel some type of way. Okay.
Now, this is why we be waiting on you to jump on the bench, and we be on the joint. We wait for you to come in.
Shots fired.
But we were talking about how, like, in hip hop, you look at like Cube. Like, Cube left Dr. Dre and NWA, and everybody was like, yo, how you gonna leave one of the dopest producers? But then he knew to come to the East Coast and get with the Bomb Squad,
right?
With another group of dope producers. And when we think of R&B 90s, especially producers for that kind of sound, it really was just a Hitman or bust. You know what I mean? So it's almost like when you left Bad Boy, where were you gonna go?
That's true.
Like if I'm CL Smooth, I mean, of course, Primo probably wouldn't do this, but if I'm CL Smooth, I could go to Primo for some beats. I've got some other big name producers who I can seek out to kind of help me, because I always said, to me, making an album is always, to me, half the producer and half the singer. We got to come together and make this project together.
Right.
I think with R&B, especially in those 90s, like I said, if you left Bad Boy, it was like, who else are you got? You can't leave Chuck. I'll give you a great example. We talked about this cat last week for Sean. He had this album out with Alchemist that was just incredible. Then he came out with his real album, and I'm like, dog, you can't leave Alchemist. Like, you can't go from Alchemist and then go down to whoever was producing the regular album. Like, you can't go from Chucky Thompson to just whoever else, just fill in a name. And then the other problem with Puff was at that time, and Chuck talked about it in the interview I did with him, was, around that time, Puff was, his new contract was up. You know what I mean? So Puff was trying to kind of replace Chucky with Stevie J, which was cool, but Stevie J ain't no Chucky. And as time went on, you saw Stevie J get into it about the money, and then he tried to replace Stevie J with Mario Winans. Mario Winans is dope, but he ain't no Stevie J. So going down and down and down, because Puff, I guess, didn't want to pay these people what they wanted or what they felt, they were worth. And I just think that in R&B, even more than hip hop, there's just such a connectivity between one producer and an artist. You know what I mean? I think that that's for any genre, but I think especially with R&B, and even if it's just not one producer, if it's just a team, like that Hitman team was like really a unit. Like, Chucky was talking about how, like, yo, you didn't want to miss a session because you didn't want to be out on a town party, and then you come to the studio next day and they be like, yo, we just did 3 songs for Faith. So like, that whole crew was like, okay, we need to be in the studio every day because we don't know who Puff, what type of work is going to come across our desk. And I think it was just hard to mirror that again. And like you were saying, JR, not really even saying that Puff was in the studio all the time, but just the fact that Puff was making sure the right people were in the studio at the time. And making sure that at the end of the day, when I listen to this album, that I love every song. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, after that, we had The First Lady, which was her joint off of Bad Boy, Something About Faith, and another album, Incomparable. What did y'all think about those next 3 albums? Either or, Jr. What do you think?
I like First Lady. I mean, I did. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it wasn't. I mean, I think Faith wanted to do her own thing, and it was just her. You know what I mean? Her and her husband, they like, look, we ain't down with Bad Boy no more. We with Capital now. So I'm gonna do what I want to do. I don't have to tell Puff because Puff was the executive on those last 3 albums. This album, Faith is like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna sound how I want to sound. I want to do what I want to do. And it was just like, for me, it was just like right then and there, I was just like, Faith, there's a lot of loopholes in this one. Like Mesmerized, I was glad she got back with Chucky, which was cool. You know what I'm saying? But it was like she worked with Jermaine Dupri, and it was just like she worked with Carvin and what's his name? Carvin.
Ivan.
Yes. Then she was with the Neptunes, and I'm like, come on, Faith. I'm like, nah. I was just like, nah, I'm not with this. So I mean, I had it, but it's not an album that I continually listen to all the time. It's not one of those. But I mean, if it comes through on the spin and I'm listening to it, I ain't gonna turn from it. But I mean, it's like that album in full. I could tell. I can probably count fully. I listened to that album literally like 5 times full through. Other than that, nah, negative.
All right. And I know it's something about Faith. I never even heard it. The cover was so whack. I think. And
God.
I think what you were saying, Kay, that kind of by that time, not that. Again, I think it's just me being a producer. I'm so in love with the beats that if the production isn't right, it's kind of like no matter how great you can sing, I'm not really, So I think after the First Lady, I kind of tuned her out, and I didn't even hear something about Faith or the Incomparable album.
Excuse me, I didn't say what I thought about it.
I was coming to you, but JR having a whole spirit moment over there. JR, what happened?
Nah, because I mean, Incomparable is actually alright. It's better than. To me, it's better than the First Lady, and it's better than Something About Faith because she takes it back to you got that 90s Faith back with the Incomparable for me because Faith is strong on interludes. On that first album, she did a couple of interludes that could have been full songs, and on this album, Incomparable, she gave you that. Like she got a song called "Take Me Away," and it's "Take Your Time," not "Take Me Away," "Take Your Time." And that is a song that gives me Thank You, Lord from the first album, or You Bring Me Joy from the first album, like those. And I was like, yes, Faith, or like really want to do Fragile. Like she wanted to bring some more sounds into it, but I got the 90s flavor that I think we all love from Faith with Incomparable because like you said, Kill, Something About Faith, I was like, Faith, what is going on? And then with, the one before that, the First Lady, I was like, there's some loopholes. But this last album, there's some loopholes, but it's a lot better than the last two. So.
All right. I may have to check that. What you think, Kay?
I'm different from you, Kill. Like, I do believe that you got to have the right producers. You got to have producers that know you. It's just like a hairdresser. You got to have somebody who know you. When I go in there, if I don't know how I want my hair, you should know me so well that you know how to do my hair and it's going to look good and I'm going to feel like I came in here and told you what I wanted. That's how I feel when it comes to music producers and singers. Right. However, JR keeps saying something that a lot of people say that I don't agree with when they talk about Faith or just in general when people talk about artists who've left a label and they had a great sound, they worked with great producers, like they brought that sound back. Nobody keeps that sound eternally, whatever that sound is. You can look at the history of music. Nobody holds on to that sound. Her working with different producers and hot producers at that's dope to me. That speaks to who she is as an artist. However, when you bring that many people in the mix and you don't have a team, you tend to get your sound scattered all over the place. Her CD was still good to me. Her CD was still good. Faith still sang and she did what she wanted to and she looked happier singing what she wanted to sing her way. However, when you have that team, and you said it, Kill, Chucky said that they had the team that was there and you didn't want to miss it. It's like when you at work and y'all brainstorming on a project, you don't call out sick. You on the phone doped up on codeine, cough syrup. And they like, okay, you got that? I'm like, and you didn't pass out 3 times. You don't want to miss it. That's what Puff brought to it. It's that Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, that Minneapolis sound. He had a team there, and that team rock. And then when it didn't work anymore, and he kind of said it in an interview, Kill, it wasn't just the singer that didn't work anymore. It was the team in the background, the people behind the scenes that's turning on the lights and mopping the floor and all of that. They started to break apart. So if you were an artist, it's just like going to work for a corporation. When you see things unraveling at the seams, what you do? You go look for another job. And Faith moved on. She still sounds the same. She still sings her behind off. But what she has to do is get that team. I think that her and Todd were going for that team because that's all they talked about in their interviews. Everything was that weird team. We getting a team in here, and they were going for that team because she understood that concept. But somewhere along the way, it just went to the left. I still think Faith is one of the dopest singers. Amen. After that CD with Mesmerized on there, I didn't listen to anything else. I really haven't. And more so because of the fact that I just didn't like the fact that nobody that she worked with could really help propel her to the front vocally. It's not hard to do. It's really not. When you have somebody who sounds just as good in the studio as they do live, it's not hard to do. You just got to reach into their soul. And a lot of producers out here are not doing that. They're just looking for the next hot track with the next hot singer, where Puffy took his team and they looked into you. Chucky said it. Faith knew gospel, Mary knew the hip hop. And he pushed that. He brought those songs out of Faith where she sang from the diaphragm like they tell you in choir rehearsal. So that's just my take.
Woo, yo, well, damn, Kay.
I definitely agree with you on that. And I think the hard part is that as fans we do get used to that sound. Like you brought it up, the Minneapolis sound, that Prince had, we want that sound. And the hard part about it is it's almost like, when, and I mean, you have every right, and I mean, I say this all the time, you have every right as an artist to grow. I just think you have to, if you do want to grow and try different things, you just have to make sure it's dope. Right. Outkast is a great example of that, like of Dre saying, hey, I want to try different things. You just gotta make sure it's dope. A lot of times.
But it's hard to find out if it's gonna be dope. You gotta take a chance.
I mean, you gotta take the chance, but then I think too, it's almost like it was around this time when Q-Tip came out with Rivalry thing. It seemed like he wanted to get out the backpacker lane, and
right.
Q-Tip tried it, and then Common tried it with the deaf girl in that video. That to me was whack, and to me it was just like 3000 could just do that. Andre 3000 has CeeLo has that. I don't know if it's because when New York MCs, we try to keep them in a box, but with Atlanta MCs, it's like, I don't think so, because I think CeeLo can sing. He can sing.
Yeah, he can.
Yes, he can.
He can sing and rap, so you kind of need, it's like that Tisha Campbell song I sent y'all. Like, you need a team to be like, now, obviously, it was good, because you not only recorded it, but you shot a video to it, and then
okay, you petty.
To be like, so I feel you, like, you sometimes do know if something's good or not before you put it out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
You need a team of people around you to be like, Dwayne should be like, baby, you can't put that out. Come on now.
Right.
So I think that's the thing that, and I think the other thing with Faith is like, everybody can't do it. And it's, to me, and what I mean by that is that the depth of music is the depth of that executive producer. And as much as we may have hated Puff, Big would not have been Big without Puff. Big would have been the equivalent of probably a Big L, or because Big would have been fine with just rhyming over primo beats. He would have been on the level as a J. Rue the Damager, but the reason he was so big was because Puffy was like, yo, you gotta do this juicy. You gotta do this One More Chance remix. You gotta, and I always liked Big because I always felt like, I don't know if this is it, but I felt like it was like, all right, I'm gonna do that joint, but I'm gonna do a One More Chance, for the hip hop people. Or if I'm gonna give you Who Shot You. Like, I'm gonna keep both sides happy at all times.
Right.
I'm able to do that. So I think that Faith and her husband may have thought, okay, we're going to go out here and do this. But then again, like I said, when you don't have any big heavy hitters to go to, you know, Carvin and Ivan were part of that A Touch of Jazz crew. And to me, they were kind of the, I don't want to call them the whacker ones, but they weren't Dre and Vidal. You know,
Right.
were the ones that should have went to, because Dre and Vidal was doing that poetry and that music stuff, you know. So, again, I just think, like, you can sit back, and a lot of people, you know, want to sit back and say, oh, I could do that job, or I can help you pick beats. It's a gift. Like, everybody can't pick gifts. Not pick gifts, can't pick beats. Everybody can listen to a beat and then see the bigger picture. I always tell cats the story. I was in the studio once, and I played this beat for this cat. He came through, I played it, he ain't like it, he left. Another dude came through, played him the same beat, he liked it, he wrote to it, we recorded it. The next day, I played what we recorded for the first dude, and he was like, yo, why you ain't play me that beat? And I'm like, dude, I did play you that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
And he was like, nah, you didn't. And that showed me right then and there that everybody can't see what can be done to him. Like, he had to hear the completed song to be like, yo, why ain't you give me that beat? You know, it put me out for a while, but it showed me not everybody has that gift to be able to just go in the studio, hear a good beat, and then also have the vision to see what I can do with that beat.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's almost like these architects. You be seeing these houses on HGTV, and this, I'm like, there ain't no way you're going to fix that house. And then they come back with some bananas. That person has the gift to be able to see what I can do. All I need is this foundation, and this is what I can do with it. So I think that was one of the things that kind of hurt Faith, too, is when you don't have, like you said, Kay, that person to bring that out of you or to match you up with the right people. You know what I mean?
But do you also think that some of the right people refused to work with her because at the time, Puff was just that hot, and he was that dude whose feet you didn't want to step on because you didn't want to ruin your own career. So it's like, yo, I can make Faith rock, but check this here. I'm still trying to make my name, and we all know that right now Puff got the name, and what Puff says goes. I'm going to take a pass on her, and then maybe somewhere down the line I can work with her. But right now, fresh out the gate, and I'll give you an example. When I left one company, I went to another company that had tried to get me before. And when I went to them, because that manager knew my old manager, she said, yo, I can't take you straight out the gate from there because I don't want to look like I stole you from them. So if you can go someplace in between, you could give me 2 months somewhere and come back to me, that job is yours. I told you that before, but I just can't take you walking away from there because it's going to cause a rift in business that I can't take. So you have to think about that too. You know, the same rules apply, different industry, but it's the same rules across the board sometimes.
No, you're right. And the funny thing about that blackballing piece is I definitely can see that. I know I asked Chucky about that because I always felt like with the Hitmen, I'm like, yo, after y'all left Bad Boys, like, y'all disappeared. Like, and for years I felt like that Puff blackballed him. And again, I mean, he was on camera, so maybe he couldn't keep it, you know, all the way up. You know, he said a lot of times, too, he said, yo, you get your own label and you don't have that person pushing you. You know, he said, was always pushing us to do better. And it kind of shows you that, like, when you don't have the right manager pushing you, your workflow may start, you know, getting a little bit worse. So, I mean, but then again, I can totally understand Puff, a producer, being like, well, I can't rock with you because I want to get this Bad Boy money over here. You know? But then again, it goes back to we didn't have a lot of big R&B producers. Because when you think of the when you think of the 90s, you're thinking R. Kelly, Babyface, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and the Hitmen. You know?
And Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis was on their way out, so Puff came and saved the industry.
We didn't have any other big names outside of those four people, and I mean, I don't think Babyface really gelled with Faith for a whole album. You know, I don't know about, you know, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. They were, you know, dedicated to Janet and doing only her full album. So you really don't have a lot of people to go through.
That's very true. Very true.
At that time, I think Faith would do so much better now. More so than just saying like that, because back then you didn't have Twitter or a way to get to up-and-coming producers. Hear your stuff. Let me give you a chance. You know what I'm saying? I think that's big, too. Let's go on to 112. 112's first album dropped in 96. Me, personally, it was a classic. I love it. I still bang it to this day. I thought it was ingenious that they did basically a whole album of slow jams. You know, Only You and the Only You remix. I never understood why more groups didn't do that. Just do all slow jams, throw a couple of remixes out there to get the club popping. But I just felt like that 112 album was perfect. What y'all think about the first joint, Kay?
Classic. I had it on my answering machine.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
JR, you ain't have no answering machine.
Yes,
It's
I did.
PS32. Shut up.
By the time you had voicemail by the time. Answer machines with no more, man.
Exactly.
Y'all
You
y'all.
was not sitting in your house by that speaker, JR, timing the song like I got 10 seconds to say this. Don't nobody walk in the room. Don't nobody move. You was not there practicing your voice over and over again. But that joint was so dope. I mean, it definitely was a classic, hands down. And I'm with you, Kill. Like, when I got it, I was like, so this whole thing is slow? And it wasn't no BS slow jam stuff. Like, I was like, all right, let's see how these dudes are going to do. And they killed it. They did a good job. I don't think that they were able to ever really hold fast and duplicate that. Am I jumping ahead? I need to see the cue chart. Am I jumping ahead? Okay. So I think that even though like I like their next CD that came out, they were not able to recreate that sound. And I don't know if it was like we was tired of the slow jams and we wanted to see something else from them. I don't know, but they couldn't recreate it the same way, but they killed it. That first one, hands down.
Right. Nope. What'd you think, JR?
Classic. Absolutely. Classic from hands down. Like y'all said, it's balanced. And then what I like that Puff Ass let the boys like write on some of them. So, but it was just dope. Like from beginning to end, like I still rock to that album to this day. Like it's dope. And just for them to have a joint like Cupid, and then my joint was Come See Me with Mr. Cheeks. Like,
yeah, that was dope.
Right there.
That was, but see, Kill, that took it back to what you said when we did the show with Bezo. It was always, well, Bezo said it was always that one song that was out there for the brothers in the hood. Right. So, you know, Come See Me was that. Like, yo, they was singing, but they had Mr. Cheeks on there, who was like the lady magnet, you know, and they just rocked that song. But another Bezo moment. Slim with the chipped tooth, yo, I hate his tooth. Like, I swear to goodness. Yo, shout out to Bezo for just making me think of weird things. Yo, his chipped tooth, I hated that joint. Like, it was like when Ralph Tresvant was in New Edition before he got them braces. I was like, this dude is too old. Who gonna come see you with your raggedy teeth, though? Like, come on. All right, I'm sorry.
All right, so what do y'all think? Because then they went on in 98, they had Room 112. 01, they had Part 3, which, of course, that's when they left Bad Boy and went to Def Soul. 03, they had Hot and Wet. And 05, they had Pleasure and Pain. To be honest, after the first joint, I listened to the second joint, and I messed with the joint Anywhere that was on there. But again, it just didn't have that oomph of that first album. You know, JR, what did you think?
I listened all the way up to Part 3, actually, because Hot and Wet, I haven't listened to that like that. Like, I only heard like the song.
Thank God, because you listen to all the mother freaky songs.
Here we go. But nah, I didn't listen to it like that. Like when I heard the single that they did, the first single was like a reggae type of joint. And I was like, oh, okay, so now they following the trend now. So I'm like, okay, here we go. So I was like, even after that, it was just like, nah. But Part 2 was my joint, because It's Over Now was my joint. Peaches and Cream was my joint. Dance With Me was my joint. So it was like, I rocked to that, and see, I'm about to put myself in. Now I know Kay gonna have so many jokes when I say this, but when I was on the bus,
or the yellow school bus with your Walkman, with your Sony Discman,
you better act like you know my Sony Discman with my red headphones. You right. I'm telling you, like when I first heard Angie Martinez play It's Over Now on her show, I was like, oh snap, Run Song got it. And then I went to was it F5? No, Circuit City. Damn. I went to Circuit City. Yes, I went to Circuit City and I brought the album and I played it like that. But After that, it was like I wasn't really feeling 112 after that though. So.
Right. And I mean, for me, I don't think, the funny part is that first joint just with all the slow jams. Because I always felt that way about Jodeci. Like, I never felt like Jodeci could make a really dope, fast song. I mean, they had Let's Go Through the Motions off the Who's the Man soundtrack. And, but I always just wondered, why didn't Jodeci just make an all slow jam album? Like, that would have been just beyond epic. And I just think, like, them dudes didn't stick to the script. And, again, I just think it goes back to just having that executive producer or that coach. You can have some of the greatest players on the squad on the floor, but if they don't know what plays to run and they don't have nobody directing them, it just looks like a whole hot mess. And then on top of that, I never knew any of their names and never could tell none of them apart. I'm looking like they had Slim had a solo album and Darren Jones had a solo album and Q Parker. I'm like, who the hell are like? I didn't even know their names,
Right.
Q Parker is now doing Black Plays, Mama. Who
That's how it
the
always
chicken?
goes.
Yep, always.
Whenever you,
Christopher Williams.
Whenever you be like, yeah, whatever happened to fill in the blank? Then it's like, why we can't afford cable no more? Play come to your
All right, we're not gonna go that far because Keith Washington do some of them plays, and y'all know how I feel about Keith Washington.
Oh yeah,
yes.
About your great friend Washington. But the only thing I knew about Darren Jones, he produced one of my favorite joints for Keisha Cole. He produced that joint, I Should Have Cheated. Like that's the highlight of that dude's career for me is producing that.
And that was your favorite song.
I mean, he was. He did a pro,
All right, so that's 112. Now we got a group that I feel like a lot of cats don't want to talk about, but I actually like both their albums with Total.
Oh yeah.
Total, I mean, they dropped in '96 with the No One Else. I mean, to this day, I remember hearing that and everybody being like, "Is that a new Big song?" Because just having Big
sets
with that.
And Big was on both mixes, the remix and the original, wasn't he? Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, I just hearing that, and you talk about your answer machine, that was on mine. It was like, how Big's whole verse to fit in here, and then
in those 30 seconds, yes.
I can stop talking. I'm gonna just play the verse, and y'all know. So I'm not gonna say you reach kill. It's just you already
right, exactly.
Here, Biggie, it's my crib.
Yo, I think that Total was so dope to me. Total changed the game. Like, they came out with fly haircuts. They was a mix of chicks. You had Kima, Keisha, Pam, and they all had a different look to them. And so it was like you could really kind of get in where you fit, and they really represented to me the chicks around the way. You know what I mean? Because there was a mix of them. Those three of them represented three different type chicks, and their beats they went from like the party type song. Again, they had Big, but then they dropped Kissing You, and like they dropped it at the right time. The video showed a softer side of them, and so it was like you could be the chick working at the hairdresser, and you got a bad attitude, and you rolling your eyes at people, but then you at the park with your man, kissing you. Like, that's who they were to me. Like, Bezo talked about the other songs being for the thug dudes. That was for the hood chicks. Like, yo, I do have a softer side. I do. When I leave here, I ain't just washing hair. I got goals and dreams.
To this day, I've always wondered who pulled Raphael Sadiq in for Kissing You.
Wow, I was just about to say that, yo.
I didn't even get that far. I was about to say that.
Was that a pop move? Was that like?
Right.
I don't know, yo.
Like, I want to rock with Sadiq because
those
joints.
But you know what, Kill? When you just said something before you went to Total that kind of like hit the nail on the head when it comes to like Raphael Sadiq and producers like him. You can't pull them in for a whole album because they're good at what they do, but do they have the staying power for those artists for the whole album? Because listening to what he did with that, you would think like, yo, he could have did a couple of more slow jams for them, but could he? Maybe not. Like, Babyface is dope, and he definitely gives people hot songs, but we all see what happens when he gets involved for the whole album. It goes to the left. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so around the Kima, Keisha, Pam time, you have to also think when you just gave that timeline that was around the time where there was some stuff shaking up in the background. You know what I mean? So who decided to pull this dude in like, yo, we need a hot summer banger? And that was another thing that Puff knew how to do. He knew how to give you the winter song and how to put out that hot summer banger, which a lot of people are missing now. We don't have summer classics like we used to, you know? But Total was definitely hot, but then they fizzled out. I don't know if the hard chick thing wasn't cute no more, but they kind of fizzled out. Their second CD was good to me.
Oh, yeah. The second CD, the Kima, Keisha, and Pam joint.
Yes.
Tripping was crazy.
Yes. Sitting home waiting for you. Oh my God. Cry right now. Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I said a lot of people really don't even know past that first joint. But I also think at that time is that there was something else, like you talked about something brewing. Kima, Keisha, Pam dropped in 98, and around that time, Missy and Timbaland was it.
Was killing it.
Yes, so, they were.
For them to be able to go from the track masters into them, it just was a perfect fit. Because to me, Trippin' is just bonkers. Like, I love that song, but that's just when Missy was at her height and everything about that. JR, what'd you think about Total?
I thought they were dope, honestly. My mom actually, when she heard, because she actually brought the New Jersey Drive soundtrack because of Can't You See? Because my mom loves a classic throwback. So
JR, let me say this. I don't even have the word that.
Don't say it. Don't say nothing. You see the look on my face. I just turn my head. I turn my head.
The same music. Like my mom heard mine. Like, I just feel old, bro. I just feel old. I feel old. That's all.
On next week's show, we're going to have my little niece on here who JR's age, so y'all can talk about these little kitty-ass songs, okay?
But I can relate to y'all when y'all...
No, you can't relate. You may know the song, and you may like it.
I'm like, whoa.
You can't relate.
I brought the New Jersey Drive out.
You can, JR, do you hear what you're saying? My mother, I like the song because my mommy came home with the VHS tape from what's those people from Blockbuster, New Jersey Drive. Me and Kill is like, yo, I bought the tape. I had it on my answering machine. Da-da-da-da-da. You like, my mommy brought it home, and I like the song because I heard it, and that just reminded me.
How am I going to go to the store at 9 years old and buy
it? But then that's why you can't say you relate to us. You don't relate because you don't have no grown-up memories. No, you don't. Shut up. Go ahead. You that Blockbuster, and your mother bought it. Right.
All right, yeah, Jay, I'm sorry. I just, when you
brought it, I was what to say no more. Y'all hurt my feelings.
All right, so you like Total.
I like them. They were dope.
The funny thing about Total to me is I don't think they really had the staying power, only because, I know what you're saying about three different. To me, that group was all Keisha, man. That was all Keisha. Yeah. The other I thought was a dude on the low, like the one who always
Pam. Yes.
Yeah, Pam was a dude. The other chick playing the fake guitar, Shorty's sister was Vita,
Yeah, yep.
But I felt like that whole group was just Keisha. Like, she was bad. No, back in the day, she used to mess with Andre 3000.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was her man during that first Total album.
Really? Yeah, and then Erica scooped in with them thrift store clothes on and took him. That's how she take him off, with them thrift store clothes.
She Medusa. You can't look at her eyes.
I'm going to the thrift store tomorrow. I'm tired of being single.
And she ended up marrying the boy Omar Epps.
I know, yes. Yeah, then because she took Omar Epps from Sana Lathan, and then there was a little back and forth.
Yes,
and
she did.
Remember when they won the award for Love and Hip Hop, and Sana Lathan was like Love and Basketball, and she said, "My number one man." You see, she came in and scooped him. Then she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna show you the number one man." Mm-hmm. Now I saw them in a magazine not too long ago. He got that daddy belly. Yeah, Like Omar's like, yo, he look like somebody's father right now.
Yo, Juice was about 20-something years ago. He is.
He's somebody's grandfather.
I get mad at dudes when you in your 20s with a gut, man. Once you hit 40, man, that come with the territory. But
JR went to school with one of their kids. So damn young.
And then the last person we had up on that, we had Carl Thomas. His first joint, Emotional, dropped in 2000. Loved that CD. Loved that joint to death. A lot of cats don't know he had a second album. Let's talk about it.
Which was really good.
Yeah, but that's 04. So now I feel like now we're producer hopping. You know, Mike City did two, Drain Bilal did one, Mario.
But remember, Carl Thomas was not supposed to make it off the shelf. Carl Thomas was supposed to always sing backup. Carl Thomas was on the Keenan Ivory Wayans show with a turtleneck on and some slacks, singing.
Whoa, when he had the talk show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The Locks was on there because the Locks were big, and the Locks was on there. Puff was on there. Carl Thomas was singing, and Genuine, I think, was on the show that night.
Oh, wow.
And so Puff was like, yeah, that's my new artist, Carl Thomas. And Mike Tyson was losing it because I didn't know. He was such a huge Locks fan. Like, yo, the Locks, I love you, oh, yo. Like, I think for a minute he scared them. Like, they was looking like, yo, this dude bit somebody's ear off. Like, yo, this dude is a wild man. But anyway, Puff is like, yeah, that's my man, Carl Thomas. Look out for him. So everybody's looking, and everybody's looking, and everybody's looking. Carl Thomas don't make it off the shelf. But then when the whole thing went down in the club, J-Lo, Shine, yada, 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 Carl Thomas gets dusted off, and he's killing it. But then after that, it's like Puff escaped the trouble, everything's fine, and Carl Thomas is pushed to the back. Carl Thomas saved Bad Boy at that time, and nobody is really realizing that. He saved Bad Boy at that time. And I think one of the biggest issues that I have with Bad Boy is that it's almost like you say, like that old saying, don't bite the hand who feeds you. It's like Puff disses these people. It's like he uses them and he pushes them away, and then they gone, and then that's it. That's it. Like, where's Carl Thomas now? He's doing them damn plays now. And Carl Thomas definitely had staying power.
Yes, he did.
But he didn't use Carl to the full potential. His next CD was good. Like, it showed a different side of Carl. He was singing. He was still good. But then he just got pushed to the side. And so that's the downfall. Like, I really think that Carl Thomas could still be out there making music, at least 3 strong albums, not just 1.5.
Yeah, I just think that these cats, you know. Oh, I'm sorry, Gerald. What did you think about Carl Thomas's?
When your mother bought the CD.
No, Kay. We in the 2000s, so he old.
No, he older. Okay, right.
I actually love Carl Thomas. Like Kay said, he was on the show, so he wasn't supposed to be hot. So like I love that people understand that, because I say that a lot. Like, Carl Thomas is the reason why Bad Boy survived in the early 2000s. Because if it wasn't for him bringing out that album and everybody singing I Wish and Summer Rain, nobody like Bad Boy wouldn't have been, we wouldn't even thought about it. Because, I mean, Puff just came out with the album Forever, and we're going to leave that back there.
Right.
But he came, so you know what I'm saying? So he didn't really have nobody rocking. And Carl Thomas came and had everybody on smash. So it was like, once, like Kay said, after Puff got off all that trouble, it was like, oh, now it's like, screw Carl Thomas. But he was the one that helped you. But now I'm going to worry about Mario Winans right now. Now he's going to be the focus. And I'm going to push him out there. And I'm like, yo, Carl
But it's
Thomas,
like he had an industry save with that album. You figure, like, Hev produced songs on there for Carl Thomas. What was it? Not just Summer Rain. I can't remember the other song. I think he did 2 songs on there for Carl Thomas. Carl was dope. Yeah, I don't know. He got the raw end of the deal. I think Puffy had so many ideas in his head that he couldn't just narrow down one thing. And if he could have narrowed down his sound, like when we talk about Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, they were dope because they honed in on what they were good at, and they brought that sound to everybody. Puff honed in on what he was good at when it came to the remixes, so forth. But then after that, it just kind of all went downhill. I mean, you can't just stop Kill with the groups that came out in the 2000s and the 90s. You got to look at what he did afterwards with some of these people in R&B. It was like he was reaching for something, and he didn't just stick to the one thing that he was good at with the groups.
Right. All right, so tell me this. Oh, I'm sorry, Kay. What you gonna say?
Because I was gonna say, look at like what's his name? Danny Klang, when he was the dude he was on when they did the band.
Oh,
The
yeah.
bacon, yeah.
Like I mean, he really could have been the next John B. minus, a couple of crack binges and stuff. But I mean, like he was good. He was a good singer, and it went wrong. I don't really think that Puff may have been the guy that was meant to have like the whole Bad Boy Records and all of these artists under him. I think he should have just took his core group of producers and just went from person to person producing songs and not trying to get this label and put out artists, and especially now R&B artists, because it just didn't seem to work for him. Like something went wrong in the mix somewhere.
And it seems like to me, he started being more of a follower than a leader. Because Puff used to be a leader. Like, he created a lot of these images and all this. And now that we out, and the things that I see him doing now, I be like, yo, Puff, like, this was not you back then. Like, you was the one that created these type of images for these artists. Now you're following these images. Now I'm like, Puff, what is going on? So
but at this point in his career, though, he really don't have to create anything different. He doesn't.
True.
He can just get along. He can just get along just to do it. Like, whatever. Even if he just gets along, people are still going to do what he's doing. Like, okay, Puff is doing it, I'm going to do it too. He still has a following, but when he was at his height, at the point where, he was the game changer, there was something that went wrong, and maybe he put his hands in too many pots. That's my opinion. So.
Yeah, I think the hard part too is like, I think once he became the became the artist, he wanted all the attention. So all the executives, like, if you want to be the artist, then you got to bring somebody in, and there's no way you could tell me that Puff throughout all these years didn't have somebody that he was either grooming, or the dude John Pierre or whatever, who's like his right hand man from Howard, or like you in charge of Bad Boy Records. Like, I'm a artist, but you hold down the fort. I think Puff was like, yo, I'm Bad Boy now.
Yeah.
So everybody just follow me. And like you said, at that time and point, now you got your hands in too many things. You know what I mean? And now it's about making money more than it was about making music. I think in the 90s, it was definitely about making money with Puff. Don't get twisted. But I think it was about dope music and making a lot of money. I think after about 2000 came, it just came to making money. Like, it's funny. I see things like now, and they'll be like, oh, such and such. Some rap, I think his name is Los from Baltimore. Oh, he's Bad Boy. And I'm like, Bad Boy still got money? Like,
right. Yes.
Like, we still signing people? I thought we
right.
Like, I didn't know Bad Boy still existed.
Yes.
Like, y'all got an office somewhere?
Yeah.
So, but if there's one thing that each one of y'all could say, like, JR, for you, what's the one thing that you would say was the death of R&B at Bad Boy?
Ooh. I think I think we already said it. I think it was the producers. I think, like y'all said, when a producer gets with an artist, they know what they like, and they get inside deep and let them create their best. And after then, you start working with all these other producers that really don't know you, that's just trying to buy a hit, rather than to try to get like, to me, it was like Chucky got a story out of Faith. You know what I'm saying? And then after that, when she started working with these other producers, it was just like, yo, they just want to hit, and they don't really know you. They don't get down deep on what needs to be said. And I think that kind of changed a lot of things, especially with R&B wise. And after that, it was just like nobody cared anymore about Bad Boy too much and any of their R&B artists. So nobody really started taking them serious, because I guess the sound wasn't there anymore. For me, that's what I'm gonna say.
And what would you say, Kay?
Puff was the death of his own label. He was the death. I think that at a certain point, his head got so big, and he felt untouchable. I mean, we didn't even tap into, the stories, the rumors of how he was doing people, etc. His head got big. I think Big, the rapper, made his head big. Like, Puff felt untouchable when Big was on the scene. And so, I mean, look at how, and I know we didn't bring this up, we talking about the R&B side, but look at like how Puff did Craig Mack. Craig Mack was his first artist. Right. And I mean, then Big come on the scene, and it's like, Craig who? beat it. Goodbye. But anyway, I think that he could not get out of his own way. And I think he did want to become an artist, because you think about around with Big's second album, which was also in that whole No Way Out time, he was doing a whole lot of rapping, and to quote the Honorable Suge Knight, dancing in your videos, jumping around. Like, he really bought into the hype, and he went too far. And he was the death of his label. He was the death of his sound. He was the death of everything, because I think that he got so large that he totally messed up just what he was building, because he was building an empire and it was good, but he couldn't get out of his own way. His head got too big.
Right. And I think for me, Kay, you bring up a good point with Craig Mack. It kind of was almost the blueprint of how Puff will do you as an artist.
Exactly.
You had, Flavor in Your Ear and Juicy out at the same time, and Flavor in Your Ear was much bigger than Juicy.
Yes, it was.
It was much, and then when the remix came out, it was much bigger than Juicy. But then,
and the rumor was they had to force him to do the remix, because he wasn't going to do a remix for that song.
All right, but then after that, then you see, Puff is all in that video. But then when Big took off, you didn't see Puff around Craig Mack no more. Nothing like that. And even though it's one of my favorite joints, his second single, Get Down, had a remix done by Q-Tip, which I
right.
But it didn't have no Bad Boy remix to it.
No.
You know what I mean? Puff wasn't video. Puff wasn't doing no ad-libs. So, like you said, I think that's a great way to that's just how Puff does artists. I think, too, is that, you made a great point with the hairdresser thing, and it's almost like with your barber. When I go to the barber shop now, my barber knows not to even give me the mirror. Like, I know it's, we don't rock together so long, you ain't got to show me what it look like. Done, you done. And I think being able to have producers and the right execs around you, because that's what an executive is supposed to do. An executive is supposed to look at you and say, this is your sound. Okay, well, let me go out and see who's out here and like almost be the matchmaker almost. You know what I mean? So without that, it's like this online dating. You got a lot of bad dates out here. You don't have a lot of bad music because you don't have nobody playing a matchmaker no more. And then, as usual, whenever a female artist marries or starts dating somebody, that dude always wants to become the manager. It's like
yes. You see what Jermaine did to Janet. You see what Jermaine did to Janet.
You see what Swiss did to Alicia. It's like, you don't just date and just that be your boyfriend. He can but can't. He always got to be your manager.
Yes.
So again, Faith getting with the new dude. He want to manage. He want to executive produce. Whatever. And then I also wish more artists and producers would spend time together. Like, I think it's something about, like, hey, if you were singing, you was like, yo, Kill, let's do an album, I would be like, yo, let's hang out. Like, before we even hit the studio, like, let me get to know you. Like, what are you about? What's your story? Like, let me, instead of it just being like, okay, well, here's 12 beats, and you go for it and hit me back.
But see, that's because there's no more artist development.
That's the problem.
When you think back in the days, they had artist development, and that's what they did. We was there together. You got to know me. You learned about my story. You set my mother kitchen while she fried that fish on Saturday. Come on. You knew this stuff. Artist development does not exist in its true form anymore. It's a title. I mean, hell, I can say, yeah, I'm an A&R. It is, bam. And you keep, they don't have artist development anymore.
Yeah. Kill, remember you sent me that thing with Boys and Men, and they did that thing with Dallas Austin with that first album. They slept in the studio, they walked to the studio together, they freaking was broke with each other, like they really connected. And that was like, to say that, it's like that artist development, nobody's connecting anymore. It's just like, it's like you don't even feel the connection on any of this music anymore. That's why it's just like, I'm gonna say mainstream. What's on mainstream radio, because it's
the hard part is even the behind the scenes, because now it's like you don't have time to hang out. It's like, I don't have time to hang out with you because I got this clothing line I got to get off.
That's true too.
And it's like, I just sent him the beat. There it is. I sent you the zip drive. Rock it out. Sing on the beat and let me know how it is. You're not there feeling me. You're not looking at the look in my face when you play it, where it's like, this one ain't for her. let's try to tweak it this way. That's not there anymore.
Right.
It's like
not.
crazy that people not even doing features in the studio together anymore. It's like, yo, send me the beat, I'll send it back to you, and then the only time they get together maybe to do the video. They ain't even in the studio together no more.
But the hard part is that's the technology. My homegirl Trish from Philly, who went to Morgan with us, said it once. She was like, yo, homecoming's not the same because of Facebook. Because I get what you're doing all year long, every freaking minute of the day. So when I see you at homecoming, I really don't have that time to chop it up with you face to face and be like,
that's
yo,
true.
what's going on? Because I know what's been going on.
Right.
That's true.
Like,
very true.
because of that, we don't, and because we can, I can just send you the track, you jump on it, then you send it back. And you know what, truth be told, sometimes that works.
Sometimes it does work, but not all the
Majority of
time.
the time, it doesn't work. You know, the majority of the time, it doesn't work. You need that connection. And then I think also producers have a season. You know, I think Chucky Thompson had his season.
Yes.
You're right.
94 to 97, and Chucky could do no wrong. And even when him and Faith connected again, I mean, Mesmerize was cool, but I can't even tell you right now if Chucky and Faith did a reunion album, would it be what we thought it was? Because he's just not. I mean, Pete Rock and CL Smooth. I mean, they had a season. You know, there was this season where Pete was it. You know,
but you can't do reunion albums anymore. Like you look at EPMD. EPMD was dope. The dopest, and everybody's like, oh, if they hadn't left, they would still be hot. No, the hell they would not. The sound changes. The sound changes.
But I think what happens is that too much time passes between the reunion. Like there's a breakup, and then there's like a 12-year layoff.
Right.
Because we gotta patch it up. It take us a while before we get it together. You're right.
But Brand Nubians broke up. If they would have came back with a follow-up album 2 years later, it would have been different than after Pooh Bah done had 3 solos that flopped, and Brand Nubians done had 2 that flopped, and then it's almost like we got to get back together. Like we don't want to, but we got to because all need this money. We were talking about with Escape how, you know, Tiny and Candy was like, I don't want to do the reunion because they don't have to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Trust me, if Old Girl wasn't with T.I. and Candy ain't have all them writing credits, they would have done it.
You better believe it.
Sure would have.
Don't have to. So most of these reunions only happen because we have to do it. Because
it's not for the love of the fans anymore.
Right. You know, so, you know, that, and I just think that that's the hard part, that by the time, you know, if Pete and CL did an album right now, me personally, I think it would be a dope album. Would it be anything like Mech and the Soul Brother and the Man?
Absolutely not.
You know, because just too much time has passed. So I just think that too, and when, again, it just goes back to we don't have a lot of great R&B producers. Whenever we sit down and we say, hey, who's in your top 10 producers? To be honest, there's at least a good 30 to 40 hip-hop producers that I could make a list of, probably 30 hip-hop producers. You can't do that with R&B. If you say, who's your top 10 of R&B, after a while, it's going to be people in there by default. Like, well, I guess I got to if I got to do 10, okay, well, you're just clinging at people. There's just so, I've asked people, who your top 10 producers in hip-hop? I get 10 total different lists. You know, of course, you'll have your core Marleys and shit. Some people don't got Marley, which is incredible to me. But
that's crazy.
You know,
what? Are you serious?
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's the age thing. Like, I don't know if y'all ever saw the show we did called How Old Were You When Illmatic Dropped?
Yeah.
It explains to me a lot. Because I was 19. If somebody was 11, then I get why Marley Marl wouldn't be in your top 10 as producers, because it was.
And didn't Marley just turn like 52 or something? So yeah, JR, he went to school with your parents, like the 40s. So, you probably call him Mr. Marlin. That's what you call him.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, the sad part is that 4 of the dopest R&B groups of the 90s we'll probably never hear from them again. And if we do, it won't be anything that's quality work that will be like, oh man, like if you tell me, yo, I got the new Carl Thomas, you can send it to me. Like, I would just be just like that. Like, you could, you know. If
that's real, though. That's real.
After I get through this BJ and this Anderson .Paak and this new Kendrick, maybe I'll give it a spin. But I don't think there's anybody on this list that you could really, maybe if you told me Faith and Chucky did a whole album, I would probably listen to it. I'd have low expectations of it. But
I wanted to ask y'all, she about to do this King and I, and she's doing this thing with her and Big. What do you think?
It's too old. Big been dead for almost 20
That's
years.
what I
Yeah.
said the same thing. I was like, I'm not.
That's gonna flop, just like when they put out that, what was it, Born Again CD, and they put all these different people on it. They got, and you're just like, what? You can't do it now. You can't. But also, Kill, another thing that is different with artists today, when you talked about like, okay, let's get them back together. What they don't do is what they used to do back in the days. Like when you think about, and this is going to sound so old, but you think about Peaches and Herb, it was like 2 or 3 different Peaches, and we didn't even know.
No,
because of the fact that
you
had to come on and get the same sound, all of that. When you look at the Temptations, what's his name? Dennis Edwards took a song that, what was it, David Ruffin sang and rocked it, and then put it on his solo album.
Yeah.
You know, like that's where the artist development and the staying power comes in. They don't have staying power like that anymore, because back in the days they could do it and you could still go with it. Like, okay, well, he ain't David Ruffin but he still sound good singing it, and you bought it. Now you can't do that. Total's performing now. It's 2 of them performing. It's 2.
Right.
Nobody's going to their shows. They performing at your family reunion this summer, and I bet you're not even going to go. Right. See, like, they don't have that anymore in the industry, and that's what's sad. We don't have real singers who are putting in the work and who have staying power.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Well, the Death of Bad Boys R&B squad, you know, I mean, everybody already said when Big died, that was the beginning. That was the crack.
The beginning of the end.
It's like Puff was mourning the loss of a spouse. Seriously, like, I'm not saying it like that, but he was, because he kept saying that's my best friend. That's my best friend. What am I going to do without him?
But then when that No Way Out, when that blew, that was it. It was Biggie dying, and then Puff becoming an artist and being able to sell however millions of records that No Way Out sold.
Dancing in your videos.
Yeah, he was dancing
singing, yes. You don't want him dancing in your video.
But another dope app, JR. What's all the info for your site?
Or JuniusWorldOfSoul.com.
You not excited about it?
I am.
You sad about Bad Boy breaking up, ain't you? I could tell.
I can't even talk. Yeah.
When are you back on social media?
Let me tell. I don't like. Okay, I'm really not missing social media. That sounds so bad, but this is pretty dope. This hiatus, but Lent will be over in a few more days. It's over on the 27th, so we're gonna see. I'm gonna come back to Twitter. I will, since Kill's always killing me about this daggone Twitter thing. I don't know if I'm going to be back on Facebook or Instagram anytime soon, but I'm gonna come back to Twitter, and I'm gonna rock with Twitter on there. But I'm really enjoying this whole social media hiatus. It's forcing me to talk to y'all more, and I know y'all like that. So.
Definitely.
JR, don't call me tonight, liar.
Not after that picture you sent me. That was real funny though.
And y'all already know this with me, Kill889 on Twitter. We'll make beats for food.com. Another dope show, y'all. I'll check y'all next week.
Later.